I want to thank you guys for coming tonight. This is our weekly Here to Help You webinar. If you've been to these before, like I think most of you here have been, there may be some other ones that drop in or people that watch new from the replay. There's nothing for sale here tonight, although tonight I will do a plug for my Inner Circle membership. I will give you a warning on that, but I think everybody in here is already a member, but there'll be people watching this that are not a member. The whole goal of this Monday night webinar is just for me to give you guys a short training. Then I go over questions that I got in emails, and then I'll take your guys' live questions after that if you have questions. So with that said, let's go ahead and get our presentation started tonight, and we'll take it from there. Got the presentation loaded up now and the chat box turned back on. If you guys have questions during the presentation, feel free to ask. We can take breaks and answer questions during this if you want, or you can hold your questions to the end. Either way, doesn't matter. But tonight what I want to talk to you about is what it takes to have a thriving, successful business online. Everybody, in this room and people will be watching this replay, everybody wants to have an online business and everybody would like for it to be a success. And achieving this success is not always easy, and sometimes it takes a really long time to get it to happen, and I know it did for me. I've been online marketing since 1994 and didn't really get serious about it until 2004. But during the period of 2004 to 2007, I was just hopscotching everywhere, wasn't really succeeding in anything. I had small successes here and there, but it was in 2007 when I started to focus and decided that I really wanted to make a go of this thing. And even after deciding that I was going to be serious about it, it still took me a good 2.5 years to really see a good successful path that I should be following. So that's what this presentation, this little lesson tonight's all about, is the real secret to how to achieve success. And what you're going to be hearing tonight is one of the things you'll hear from just about every coaching class you'll ever take. And I've taken several coaching classes, folks. And one thing I'll tell you, I highly recommend that if you can take coaching, even if you can't afford one-on-one coaching, private coaching, if you can get into group coaching, that's better than not having coaching at all. Because if you can follow somebody that's having success and duplicate what they're doing, well, that's going to speed you up tremendously from making the mistakes all on your own. Now, I'm not saying you can't do these things all on your own, because, like I said, in 2004, when I decided I wanted to try to make a go of this thing, I tried to do everything all on my own, and I made lots of mistakes, and I learned a lot of stuff. And once I got into some coaching classes, I've seen some of the things that I learned, and had I been taking coaching back then, I could have avoided some of those mistakes that I made during that time period. Okay, so let me ask you guys a question. If I were to ask you what you needed to have an online business, what would you think would be the answer? Just type in the chat box what you think it takes to have an online business, what you need to have an online business. Just whatever comes to your mind. Customers, a website, a niche. Dana says customers. Gary says focus. Rita says patience. Okay, those are all good answers. And of course, some of these were listed in here that you guys just gave me. The right mindset, Mary says. Kay says a product to be able to sell, a service to sell. Okay, would it surprise you guys if you found out that having all these things wouldn't make a bit of difference if you're missing just one thing? There's just one thing that you have to have in order to have a successful business. So you're probably wondering, what is this one thing? Next slide, please. Okay, the answer is really two things, but having the first thing will get you the second one. To be successful online, you have to have a clearly defined purpose. Now, what I mean by clearly defined purpose is Gary sort of touched on it by saying focus. Focus is definitely a huge part of having a clearly defined purpose. But having a clearly defined purpose is deciding what your business is about and what your overall goal is to achieve in it. and basically what your mission statement is. Now, you don't necessarily have to define a mission statement and have it published anywhere, but you definitely need to have some sort of an end goal in the process of what your business is online for and what you hope to achieve with it and what your customers and your clients hope to get out of the products and services that you provide. Now, I'm not talking about a business plan. A lot of people think, having a business plan is a road to success, some sort of a step-by-step plan. Although if you don't have a business plan, it's harder to have a defined purpose. Because if you're not working with a plan, you're kind of hopscotching around trying to figure out what you're really wanting to do, even if you have an end goal in sight. So, having a plan definitely does help. You can go step by step and make sure you check off the things in order that need to be done and make sure you don't miss anything. But just having a business plan in itself is not enough. To have a clearly defined purpose, it means you have a reason why you have the business in the first place. In other words, what are the problems that your business addresses? What are the end goals, achievement, or satisfaction that your customer gets from your business? Now, when you first start your business, like I said, you may not have a clearly defined purpose. You may just be starting out and trying to feel your way through and see what avenue you want to go down. So you may hopscotch around and try several different business models. But eventually you're going to settle on to one that you really like. And once you find that one you really like, you need to start working on what your overall business and its products and services are going to provide to your customers and clients that come to you that seek your solutions to their problems. Okay, so what I said in the very beginning when I was talking about it, the one thing brings you the other, so you're wondering probably what is the second one. The second one is establishing yourself as someone who can provide the solutions, the desires, and the satisfaction. In other words, establishing yourself as a person that can, do what your business says it'll do. It'll provide the products or the services that, give the customer, the means to achieve their goals or the desires they seek or the satisfaction from whatever it is, that your products or services provide. So how does this second thing come if you have the first thing? By staying dedicated to your clearly defined purpose, people will take notice and begin to follow you. Now, once you have a clearly defined purpose and you know what the end goal is, what your products and services are going to do for people, and you've got people that are listening to you, well then once people start taking notice that you really are working towards that one path and you really do care about what the end result is for them, what their overall outcome of working with you or buying products from you, then these people will begin to follow you. It's basically called the know, like, and trust. Now, I know you've all heard about know, like, and trust, especially if you've taken any kind of email marketing classes. You know about the know, like, and trust. It's the same thing with your general overall business. You got to get people to know you first. You got to get them to like you, and to trust that you are trying to provide them with what they really need, not something that you just want to sell just to make money. Once you have this know, like, and trust, people will not only follow you, but they'll also recommend you. Now that just comes to reason. If you're doing what you said you would do for people, and people know this and they can see this, they have friends and they interact with others on, like Facebook or forums or other places, and they'll recommend you to the other people that are seeking the same solutions. So to establish this know, like, and trust, all you have to do is reach out and show people that you care and want to help. Now I've been doing this for a long time. I started in 2012 when I started doing my first private coaching classes by taking people one-on-one and helping them establish their business and getting them started off in the career path they wanted to go with an online business. And I guess it really started before that in 2011 when I did my first group coaching class. I did a group coaching class in 2011 where I taught people how to build a sales funnel. But then in 2012 I decided to do private coaching. And then in 2013, I decided to go back to group coaching again because I like the group coaching environment better than the private coaching. Although I still will do private coaching, it's just rare that I offer that to anyone anymore. I usually try to get them into the group coaching, mostly because it's more affordable for people, and plus they can interact with each other and help each other as well, which helps me. If I can get people to help each other, and then that helps me. Plus I see what they're learning from. But how it started was just reaching out to people. If you all remember when you bought your first product from me, on the second day you got an email from me. It just said, just checking in. I don't know how many of you remember getting that email, but that's the second email that I send out. My sales buyers list is just checking in. And all it says in that email is just reminds them of what their download link was, and just ask them, if they were able to access the product, and if they had any questions, to send me back an email. That's the first step that I take in trying to get people to interact with me. It's just that second email they get the very next day after they bought a product. I just ask them, just checking in, want to make sure that you were able to access your product. There's lots of different ways you can reach out to people. Like I said, you can do it through email like I do. I have probably 8 to 10 messages maximum in my buyers list that I send out. And every single email in it is just trying to invoke interaction. And I get lots of replies back from those folks. You'll be surprised at how many replies you'll get back to those if you just word those emails, and you're trying to find out from people, if they're satisfied, if it's working for them, if they have any questions, and just provide some means for them to be able to contact you. Now, also, on lots of my download pages, I'll have a link where they can schedule the private one-on-one business strategy calls. I get several of those that I schedule each month as well. In fact, this month I've got 3 scheduled for this month. Those work as well as, getting people to know, like, and trust you, because once they get on a live call with you and they see that you're not there to try to sell them something, you're there genuinely just to listen to them and see what they've been up to and how you can help them get steered into a clear path they should be following. Then those people will start to listen to you, and they'll start opening your emails, and they'll start watching for the things you do online, and they'll start to follow you. But that's just one way of doing it. If you've got a good social media presence, that's another great way to reach out to people. If you do podcasting or video podcasting or video blogging, any of those work. You can do it with Skype calls. Well, I keep Skype running 24 hours a day, but I'm not always on Skype, but I keep it running 24 hours a day. If somebody asks me a question and they need help with something, I can do a screen share through Skype and show them a lot of things. You can do web conferencing like I'm doing now. I do these calls on Monday nights just to help you guys. If you come on and ask questions, I try to do my best to answer the questions on the spot. And even, if the last resort, and a lot of people don't like to do this, if you just get people to call you on the phone or you call them. All of those methods work as far as establishing, that you're someone that really cares and you genuinely want to help them. Robert's saying, I had a few problems and you got right back to me. Exactly, Robert. That's the thing you got to do, is when you get emails back from people, when they respond back to your emails, do your best to try to answer them. Within 24 hours, no more than 2 days, if you have to delay them. I try to answer mine, within a couple of hours, if at all possible. Now, with the group coaching classes I have a private message board where that goes to a specific email account that doesn't get cluttered with all the other emails that I get. If I were to show you guys my regular email box, like I said, it's showing right now about 96,000 emails. So that's why I set up the private message board for people to be able to send me emails directly, that I get them on top of everything else, because they go to a specific mailbox. Now, like I said, these are the various ways that you can reach out to people and connect with them. And that's all it takes, is just reaching out to people, showing them that you really do care, that they've bought a product or they've joined your mailing list, and you really do care about helping them succeed in whatever it is, the gift or the product that you sold them is trying to provide. But the thing is, if you don't have a clearly defined purpose, then you can't help anyone. If you're still in the process of trying to decide what your business is about, what business model you're going to follow, well, then it's hard to provide this help to anyone. Like I said, when 2004, when I decided to try to really make a go of this, I tried several different things from 2004 through 2007, and I built a list really fast during that time period, and I pummeled that list with offer after offer and burned out that list. So I learned a good lesson there, that wasn't the way to handle that. I tried various things as far as network marketing. I tried blogging. I tried several different things. I tried AdSense, had success with AdSense, which I'm sure a lot of you guys have done the AdSense thing before. But it wasn't until 2007 when I took my first coaching class with Kevin Riley that I finally figured out, that I needed to have a clear set path of what I wanted to do. And what I decided to do back then was to do product creation. So I started out doing product creation. And of course, when you're doing product creation, the whole goal of creating a product is to solve somebody's problem. Whatever the product is, it's about solving somebody's problem or giving them some sort of a end goal desired result. So, if you don't have, a business model that's picked out now, one that you're willing to dedicate and stay with, well, it's really hard to get people to interact with you because, you're constantly jumping from one thing to the next. They're not really sure, what you're about and what you're really wanting to provide to them. Like I said, from 2004 to 2007, I tried a little bit of everything, and it was hard to get anybody to interact with me because, one week I was sending them something about blogging, next week I was talking to them about joining some network marketing program. It was just all over the board, so that it was hard to get a following back then because, like I said, I was just trying too many things at once. Is when I first started to focus is when people decided, that, maybe they should start listening to me. And then, like I said, in 2011, when I started my first group coaching class, that's when people really started to pay attention to what I was doing and determine, I really was for sure wanting to help people and not just out trying to make a buck from them. Willie says, yeah, that's really bad in MLM. It's not that MLM's a bad thing. I mean, MLM might be what you're interested in. There are a lot of people, that make good money in MLM, but, they stay focused in that MLM and they care about, their downlines and try to help their downlines. It just something that didn't work out for me. I never did really care about the network marketing thing. So, it didn't work out well for me. But if you're, if MLM is something you're interested in, you're willing to work the recruiting lines and help your downline to help them build their recruiting downlines, that's great. And, there's lots of people that make great money from that. Rob Four is a great example of that. He does the Send Out Cards network marketing program, and he's got, I think, 11,000 people in his downline. But he's dedicated himself to that Send Out Cards program is how that's worked for him and helping his downline to build their downline and send out cards. So overall, you've got to know what you plan to provide before you can provide anything. That's the whole key takeaway I want you to take from this is you've got to know what you want to provide and then decide that that's where you're wanting to work and the business model you're wanting to follow. And once you define that, then you can start providing the products and services that follow along that lines. And once people see that you're staying with that one thing and you're trying to interact with them by, like I said, the various methods that I gave before, let's go back a couple of slides to go back to that. Like I said, if you're using any of these methods here or several of them to try to contact these people, that are getting, in their entry level of your products or, maybe going into your mid-level products and you're using these methods to try to interact with them, and these people are going to start to follow you. And like I said, once they start to follow you, they'll start to recommend you to the other people, that they run across that are, they're seeking those same solutions or end goals. Okay, so that's what I had for you guys tonight as far as the real secret to success. And like I said, the basic thing is you've got to decide what your business is going to provide for people and then stick to that overall business model and then show people that that's what you really care about and try to interact with people and get them to interact back with you. Like I said, when I first started doing the group coaching in 2011, I really liked it. My first class, I had 160 people in that first class, and I really liked it. And so I decided to, maybe private coaching was better. So in 2012, I tried the private coaching, and it worked okay, except, I preferred the group coaching better. So I went back to the group coaching in 2013, and that's worked out the best for me. And like I said, how I got it all started was just by sending out that second email that a lot of you guys remember getting that says just checking in. If you're in the list building masterclass, I gave you a set of 5 emails, that are a good primer to get you started. That's the exact same emails that I custom tailored to use in my own mailing list, and those are the exact same ones that you should be using as well. Roy says there are college classes on MLM. Actually, yeah, there is an MLM university, Roy, as far as I know. I haven't never tried it or anything because, like I said, network marketing is not anything I'm interested in, but there is an MLM university. Do you guys have any questions on anything I went over in this presentation? I know it may be kind of fuzzy to you, not understanding, what defining a clearly defined goal is or a purpose is. But basically, what it is just, defining what you want to do, and then once you've decided what you want to do, see how you can provide that to others, and then show people, that you really care about them getting the results out of what you're providing. That's basically the whole thing in a nutshell. Is just showing people that you really do care about, they're going to get their problems and solutions from whatever it is that you're selling, whether it be your products or services. Or he says, I won't do MLM again. I won't say I won't never do an MLM again. I mean, there may be a point in time when I decide to try one. In fact, it wouldn't maybe a year ago, I did that, what was it, that I forget what it's called now, penny ebook thing. I forget what it was called now. It's something about uh, ebook network marketing thing. And, it did okay. I got 27 people in my downline, but, it was one of those things where I seen where I was going to have to constantly help people recruit. And, network marketing is just not something I'm interested in to start with. So, I didn't stay in it very long. I got 27 people in my downline and seen that it was going to be a constant recruiting thing. So I didn't stay in it very long. I was only in it about 6 months, I guess. Robert says, I'm kind of all over the place, but I'm working on narrowing it down. Yeah, Robert, that's how I started out. And in fact, it's not a bad thing to be, kind of, jumping around till you finally figure out what you really want to work in. Like I said, I started out with several different things. The blogging was the first thing I tried, I think, because, in 2004, the big thing was, set up a blog and Google loves you and everybody will follow you. But blogging is just something, I have several blogs, but it's not something I like to do on a daily basis, go to a blog and post. But now there are other people that like to do that. Some people like to do blogging. But then, like I said, I tried several different things, and it took, a couple of years for me to try, I guess, 10 or 15 different business models before I finally decided on one that I liked. And the first one I decided, to settle into was product creation. And I've pretty much stuck with that one. I don't create as many products as I used to. When I first started in 2007, I was creating products, one a week, I guess, maybe sometimes two a week. I put out about 150 short reports right after taking Kevin Riley's coaching class on doing short reports. I put out about 150 of them within a year. So that's what, an average of about three a week that I did that. But I kind of got, writer's burnout from doing that many of them. But it did pay off. I mean, I still get sales from some of those ebooks still yet today. I mean, that's what, going on 7 years ago, and I still sell some here and there today. Most of them are in like some of the obscure niches, like fishing or something like that. I did lots of ebooks on fishing back in 2007, so I get lots of sales from those still yet, and a lot of affiliate sales. Gary says, now I'm thinking even more. Lily says, I still purchase great products from MLM companies. You do have to focus, though. Yes, you do, Willie. You sure do. Willie says, I too am all over starting to get more focused or trying to. That's what it takes is, just trying out several different business models and deciding which one you like to start with. And, there's lots of different business models out there. I like the resale rights business model, but the only thing I don't like about the resale rights, it is a trendy thing. You have to keep up with, what people are selling and try to go get the rights to it yourself to sell it. And then next week it's a whole new flavor of something else that's popular. So it's kind of a trendy thing. You have to stay on top of it. CPA is another great business model to follow, but again, I equivalent CPA to following the stock market. You got to work with it day by day because you never know when a CPA offer is going to end, and there you're sending traffic to an offer that's no longer valid. But CPA is a great market, business model if you want to follow that. It's just something you have to kind of babysit and stay with it. I don't like to work with something that requires my attention constantly like that. That's why I could never invest in the stocks, I don't guess, because I just don't like sitting there watching something, trying to make a decision on the fly. What's the best thing to do? But the resale rights, worked out really well for me, even though, like I said, it is a trendy thing. But once you get into resale rights, you can, if you're building a list at the same time, which I recommend no matter what business model you follow, you start at the very beginning trying to build a list with it, trying to get at least leads, if not just leads and customers onto a mailing list. But once you start with resale rights, so you can add those into a funnel, so as you get new leads into your prospect funnel, you can offer them the resale rights that you've acquired throughout the years. So that works really well too. But again, with resale rights, the products, tend to expire if you don't, especially like if it's anything to dealing with Facebook, and then a lot of the WordPress plugins, as WordPress, gets a new version they release, some of the WordPress plugins quit working. So you kind of have to watch that, if you're dealing in those kind of trendy things. Facebook and WordPress are, two of the hottest things that you can sell in, but they're also two of the things that are not always evergreen because we change so much. Robert says, I actually like learning all different parts to it. Willie and I think that's part of my problem. Well, not necessarily, Robert. Having to, want to learn, the different models is okay. It's just that if you don't try to apply any of them to see if it's something you're interested in, well, that's the problem. There's lots of people that will go, to the WSO section or get emails from, Lister. They'll buy a product because it sounds interesting to them, but then they open it and maybe skim through the ebook or watch the videos once, but then never take any action on it. That's wherein the problem lies, is by not trying to at least implement it. If you were interested in it enough to buy it in the first place, you should be interested in it enough to at least give it a try. Now, a lot of people have, unreal expectations. They're expecting, instant results from whatever it is. And folks, I'll just tell you right off the bat, a $7 WSO or a $37 video course, it may be enough to get you started, but it's not the whole process. Nobody is going to sell you the whole process for $7 or $37. I can tell you that right up front. It's just enough to get you started to see if their method or one method of doing one thing works. But if you really want to follow that business model, whatever that product is, you're going to have to invest more time and more money into other products to learn more about whatever that business model is, that product is about. Well, he says, I heard many successful marketers that buy products, they say they get ideas from it, but as Rick said, they also implement the stuff. I think that is where I'm missing it. Got to take action. Yeah, like I said, that's the one thing you have to do. If you were interested enough in a product to buy it, start with, you need to at least try it and see if it's going to work. Now, there are some things you're going to buy that just do not work. Especially if you get them from the WSO section, a lot of that stuff, probably 80% of it or more, is theory, where the original poster just thinks it's something that should work, and they never even really tried it themselves. So you have to be really careful over on the WSO section what you buy there, because a lot of that stuff has not been tried. It's all theory. Um, but if you get a video course where somebody's actually showing you something, a method that they're using, you can pretty much depend on, that's going to work for at least that present time. Now, if it's something like with SEO ranking for videos or something like that, it may work for that time period, but then as soon as Google or YouTube makes a change, that method will probably stop working. Same thing with CPA. CPA is another thing that's very volatile in the methods that you can follow. The CPA networks are constantly monitoring, where traffic's coming from and the methods that the traffic's getting to them. So they make changes a lot in their offers, to combat some of the things where they get actually cheated out of money. And that's why a lot of the CPA marketers, talk about the traffic they get sent, that they send to their offers, gets scrubbed. And it's what causes that is these people, that go out and try to game the system and try to cheat them out of those clicks and those email opt-ins. So, following a video course on something that's volatile like that, like I said, any kind of a Facebook method or CPA method or anything like that, or ranking in YouTube, even a lot of the blogging things now. There's a lot of talk right now about private blog networks. Well, those were really popular about 5 years ago, and Google did like the private blog networks, and they really helped a lot of the blogs to rank real well. But then people got to where they were abusing it and setting up those private blog networks and just allowing just anyone into them. So Google caught on to that, and that's when they started de-indexing all the blogs, because they found out that people were gaming their system to try to get extra ranking by having their own private blog networks, that they were the only ones that ever contributed to the blogs. Roy says, I bet everyone here has plenty already on their hard drives to explore different avenues to take action without buying any more. Exactly. I mean, everybody has tons of things on their hard drive right now that they've never even, some of them they've never even opened. And I'll be the first to admit that I've got some products that I've gotten in some of these dime sales and things that I know someday I might want to look at that, but then I forget that I've got it. So a year or so later, I go back and see that thing. I thought, oh, I should have looked at this back then because I was interested in it back then. But everybody has those, things that they bought that they either just skimmed through it or never even opened it. You wouldn't believe how many people will buy a product and just never even open the zip file to see what was in the zip file. Willie says the Facebook stuff is constantly changing. Yes, it is. If you guys remember, about a year ago, the big thing on Facebook was Teespring and all these T-shirts, and then everybody jumped on that bandwagon and was flagging ads all over the place and posting their new feed about these T-shirts. And then Facebook, they put a stop to that. And actually, what helped put a stop to that was a lot of them were using copyrighted images from some of the major sports teams, because some of the hottest selling T-shirts was the NFL shirts, and the NFL come in there and started doing the DMCA on a lot of those Teespring sales. So Teespring started canceling a lot of the search sales to start with, and then Facebook started canceling a lot of the ads over that. So Facebook, is constantly watching for people that are trying to game their system as well. Kay says, I'm in the process of weeding out plugins. Plugins is something else that, people seem to buy a lot of. In fact, it wasn't long ago one of my subscribers was having problems with a plugin he bought that I was selling. He couldn't get it to work, and he wanted me to log into his WordPress backend and see if I could figure out what the problem was. When I logged in, I went to his plugin section. He had 83 plugins installed. I mean, 83 of them in that blog. And I told him first off, I said, you've got way too many plugins. You don't need this many plugins in a blog. If you've got more than 10 to 15 plugins, you're just excessively bogging your blog down, and something's going to break. So that's something that people get hooked on, is buying the new latest plugin to do this, and they'll buy the same plugin that does the same thing. I'm not saying they buy the same exact one, but they'll buy 2 or 3 plugins that do the same thing, trying to achieve the same end result. If you've got one that's supposed to do the end result, there's no sense in buying another one and adding it to the same blog. If you're going to buy another version of plugin, at least try it in a different blog, then see which one you like better, and then uninstall the other. But this guy, he had 83 plugins installed on his blog. I don't see how it was even running to start with, but that was definitely, it's probably just had way too many of them. Louis asking, Rick, do you think Facebook fan pages are viable? Yeah, fan pages are still great, especially if you can get a following to them. And the best way to get following to your Facebook fan pages is still with the Facebook ads. You can target people that are in that interest and get people to like your page. And once you get people that are coming back to your page, now the thing about fan pages is it's kind of like blogging. You have to constantly be putting content on there and getting people to interact with that content. If you just put up a fan page just to get people to like to it and you hardly ever post it, well, then the the people that like the page are hardly ever going to come back to it. But if you've got a fan page, that you stay interactive with, and post to it regularly, yeah, they do really well. And once you've got those people warmed up, to the content that you put on there, you can, interweave, products that you're, or services that you're selling as well. I know a girl that does really well with her Kindle books on fan pages. She's got a fan page in the, what is the vampire erotica niche, whatever they call it, those vampire love stories or whatever. She writes Kindle books in that genre, and she's got a fan page on that, and she sent lots of paid traffic to get likes and fans to that page. And now every time she releases a new Kindle book, she'll do a pre-warm on it, give people, a sample or two of, the first chapter or two of the book, and then she'll tell people when it's on the free promo, the KDP Select days, and then she'll, once it hits those KDP Select days, she'll post again after that's over with, and she makes lots of sales from that, that vampire love stories that she writes. Yeah, Roy, 83 is going to slow your blog way down. Like I said, I don't see how his blog was even running with that many plugins. And the thing about it is, every one of them were activated too. It wasn't that they were just installed. He had all of them activated too. Okay, only got one question this past week through the email form, and that was on the blogging case study that I did last month. Apparently somebody didn't get the end result of that. Want to know how that was going. That I'm still working on that blogging case study, as far as trying to get that niche, that blog to rank in that niche. It's doing really well in Yahoo and over on some of the smaller search engines, but it's not doing as well over on Google as what I'd hoped it would do. I can't seem to get it past page 4 on Google. But anyway, I sent out a notice on that with the whole, what I did during that 30 days. And I'm still working on it. So I'm not, working on it as much as I did during those first 30 days, but apparently some people didn't get that link. So I'll have to resend out that link to you guys on that. I'll try to do that later this week, send out that link again to that. But that's the only question I got through the emails this week, was about that niche case study on that blog that I did last month. Yeah, that's what I've been doing, Roy, with it. I picked I think it was a 4 or 5 long tail keywords what I was initially going for, but I'm getting rankings for several different other ones besides that one I was going for. But the one I was really trying to go for, like I said, it keeps bouncing around on Google. It'll go anywhere from page 4 to page 10 within just a week or so. But then over on Yahoo, it's on page 1 where it was the last time I checked. It bounced around from 11 to 15 there for a while on Yahoo with it, and it finally got up to the first page, and it's been in the first page for several weeks. So hopefully it's still there. Like I said, I haven't checked it in the last couple of weeks. I don't know where it's at today. But that's what I initially started out with. It was 4 or 5 words. I can't remember what the exact term was now, but it took a while for it to even get ranked at all, because it was still a competitive niche, even though it was a 5-word phrase I was going for. Kay says, one of the things that bother me about some of the plugins is when you use the plugin for opt-ins, but if you should deactivate it, then it takes away your opt-in. Same with Paper Template. With Paper Template, you have to pay for it every year. If you use it on a site, you must be sure to pay every year, or it will not show up in your pages. Makes sense. I've never used Paper Template. I've heard of it, but I didn't know that it was a subscription-based template or a plugin that you had to buy. In fact, I don't know of any plugins I have that are subscription-based. I know, there's several of them that require a serial number before they'll be activated, but I don't know I have any that are on a subscription. But you say Paper Template's one of them that requires a yearly subscription. That's not really a good thing unless it's doing really well for you. Paper Template, from what I remember, isn't it like a template that lets you create sales pages easier and opt-in pages easier? Wouldn't that the goal with Paper Template? Yes, plus legal pages, so it did legal pages as well. Okay, yeah, I remember it did the sales pages and opt-in pages, but I don't know if I had a plugin that required a subscription, I think I'd be tempted to just go ahead and buy Optimized Press, something that you just buy one time. Gary says, I think I asked this before, but do you have a list of plugins you use on most of your blogs? Actually, Gary, yeah, I have an ebook that I've got that has the 11 plugins that everybody should have on their blog, and it's got the top 11 plugins that people should be using. Like I said, that all of them are free, none of them cost anything, so those are the ones you should be using. I'll send you guys a link, put a link to the copy of that ebook on the replay for you guys. But there are certain ones I use. I use Contact Form 7 on almost all my blogs. Um, I use that legal page generator on all of my blogs. I use Backup Buddy on all of my blogs. Of course, now that's a paid plugin. That one's not free. But I use Backup Buddy to make backups of my blogs. So once a month, I go in and do a backup of them, so in case I ever have to restore them. Which Kay discovered last week. I had one that got hacked. Which, by the way, guys, if you're running anything below WordPress 3.92 now, there is a group out called Ice Cream that will hack your blog. And anything below 3.92, they can get into it. And they hit 5 of my blogs last week. Kay found one of them for me and told me about it. Optimized Press is yeah, it's like Roy says, about $97 or so, but it's well worth the money because they keep it updated. And I don't know, I think unless they do major changes, you get free updates. I think if they do a uh, major release, you may have to pay an upgrade fee, but it's worth the $97 because what all it does. Now, I've been trying a new plugin that I bought last week that does a lot of what Optimized Press does, and so far I'm really happy with it. It's called WP Sales Copy, I think is what it was called. And I've been trying that on several of my blogs that I had Optimized Press on. I deactivated Optimized Press to use it and see how well it works. And so far it's working out really well. And it's only $37 for unlimited blogs. So, I'll test it a while longer before I tell you guys about it and make sure. But like I said, I've tried it on some blogs that I had Optimized Press on, deactivated Optimized Press, see how well it does with it. No, it doesn't do some of the things as far as Optimized Press does, as far as, uh, the locking down, membership type pages like Optimized Press will. But as far as creating, pages that, have opt-ins on them or sales page graphics, it does really great for that kind of thing. So I'm starting to use it more. I've got it on 3 of my blogs right now, testing it out. Of course, says I think you get updates for 1 year, but I could be wrong. Yeah, there's something like that. It's either updates for a year or updates as long as they're still in that same version. It's something like that. But for $97 for a theme, that's definitely, maintained, and they do constant release and updates for, it's worth the $97. Optimized Press is probably one of the most popular themes there is out there. So, you can't go wrong by investing in it, that's for sure. Dana's asking, have you tried the new Squeezematic? No, I haven't tried Squeezematic, Dana. Sure haven't. I did buy that sales automation engine that was released a couple 3 weeks ago. I did get that, and I've been playing around with that, but it has some problems with it that's not exactly, it's not compatible with every blog that I've got it on. And I think it's got something to do with the plugins, because if I activate Sales Automation Engine, it deactivates Backup Buddy, which, I don't have to have Backup Buddy constantly activated. I can activate it when I want to do a backup, I guess, and but it just kind of aggravates me, that if I have both of them activated at the same time, I can't use Backup Buddy. But no, I haven't tried Squeezematic. It may be one I need to look into. Okay, I feel this comment goes in with your earlier lesson. I had asked Todd Gross, now he keeps everything straight. I had asked Todd Gross how he keeps everything straight. He said, I try to bring more continuity product to product, and the ad lib ability comes from 30 years of TV weather forecasting where we did not have a script to go off of. Yeah, that's a great comment by Todd. You see Todd on a lot of sales pages anymore, don't you? I guess probably about anything video related, you're going to see Todd Gross in it somewhere. I know I've seen him do those videos a lot here lately. Seems like everybody gets him to do a video for him now. And actually, I've got a couple of spots reserved with him that I've never used. I probably should get him to do a video for me, I guess. Okay, well, we're running right at about an hour now. Do you guys have any other questions about either the presentation or anything else? And one thing I might want to make a note to you guys, the presentation I gave you tonight, it's just a small part of the very first module in the first coaching class that's in my All Access Inner Circle members area. I have a complete 10 module lesson on building your business and establishing your presence and becoming the go-to follow person in your niche. The little presentation I gave tonight was just a small sample of that whole lesson that I have on that. There's, like I said, there's 10 different modules on it that goes through the whole process of establishing yourself. That's what I'm doing right now, Roy, telling everybody about what this was just a small part of what they could get. And of course, the second one that I've got going, and it's still ongoing, we got 2 more lessons to go in. It's the list building masterclass. We got, like I said, two more lessons to go in it, and then we're going to start a new one in September. And I haven't decided exactly what the new one's going to be. And in fact, I may poll the members and see what they want. I kind of want to do one on membership sites because I've had several people ask me about membership sites and how to set one of those up and make them profitable. So I may do that. Like I said, I may just poll the members and see what they want. But like I said, this lesson tonight was just a small sample of the first group coaching class that I did back in March that's available now. You can get the whole 10 module lesson inside the Inner Circle. And if you guys want to check that out, like I said, it's open enrollment right now. I think most of you in here are already members, but there may be somebody in here that's not a member, but you can check it out right now. That's the link to it. That will be active until September the 1st. After September the 1st, the only way to get in will be through one of the current members. So right now it's open enrollment. Anybody can get in, but like I said, I'm going to close it out on September the 1st again. It won't be open again until February. And like I said, you can get this whole series on establishing yourself online and being the go-to expert. That's the first group coaching class that's available. And like I said, the list building masterclass in there, in addition to the other things that if you watch the 6-minute video I sent out this weekend, you get all those things added as well. But, you know, it's a really cheap $7 trial. Give it a trial for a couple weeks, see if it's what you like or not. You know, if you don't, no hard feelings, just cancel your account. I do my best to try to give everybody what I know works, what, you know, I've been following. So if you follow the plan that I do, you're going to see the same success that I'm getting. Okay. Well, do we have any other questions before we close out? Because we're right at 9 o'clock now, and I didn't want to keep you guys too long. If not, we'll go ahead and call it a night for tonight. And thank you again for coming tonight. I hope you enjoyed the lesson I gave tonight. If you have any other questions, like I said, on the replay, there'll be a form where you can send me questions. I'll be sure and send out that link again to the blogging case study that I did. Apparently, some people missed that, so I'll be sure and put the link to that PDF, or I give the full 30-day rundown of what happened. Like I said, it's still an ongoing thing, so I'm hoping to get it to rank in Google, but it is doing good in Yahoo, so I am seeing some traffic from getting a few opt-ins, but I'd like to get it in Google as well, so I'm still ongoing with that. But thanks again for coming tonight, guys, and those of you that are in the Inner Circle, I'll see you Wednesday night. Have a great night, everybody.